I can already feel the anger. I can already feel the hate in the comments. And you know what? It's all justified. Hello everybody, it's Ian here once again from OUFC Fan View, and it's time for another review of another Oxford United game. After the international break, Oxford are finally back in action. They are away at Shrewsbury Town. It seems like a long time ago since Oxford last played, that 2-0 victory over Port Vale, and it just gave everybody, fans, players, staff, a much needed break away from each other. It was nice to have a bit of a break from an Oxford United game. Kind of, how do I miss you if you don't go away? And I kind of did miss Oxford United a little bit, and I was actually looking forward to this game. Last time out we did very well against a side struggling down the bottom in Port Vale, and Shrewsbury, whilst in a better position than Port Vale, very similar opposition, so I was hoping for a very similar performance, but we certainly did not get that. But Oxford United end up throwing away a lead late on in this one, and they just can't salvage that win. And it opens the door for Lincoln City, who have now barged past them into that playoff spot. It ends pretty disastrously, but it doesn't end in defeat for Oxford United. It was a draw. It ended Shrewsbury Town 1, Oxford United 1. And whilst Oxford did miss chances, I think Shrewsbury will come away from that game thinking that they did deserve a point from the game. But we will go over all of it. I'll go over the team news, I'll give a match review, and I'll give my final thoughts for both sides at the end of the video. You can jump to the end of the video if you just want to see the final thoughts. That is absolutely fine. I do put timestamps down below, so you can feel free to do that. But if you do, the very least you can do is hit like on this video, because that does help me out a lot. And if you do like the content, consider subscribing. Let's have a look at this Oxford United lineup, and probably not surprisingly, Des Buckingham named a pretty much unchanged squad from that side that did beat Port Vale. Will Goodwin is the only absentee, with Mark Harris coming back up front to replace him. Goodwin came off at half-time against Port Vale with a kick, which was supposed to be precautionary, but now he's out of this game. So how badly injured is Will Goodwin, and will we actually see him on Monday? Hopefully it is not a long-term thing. Jordan Thornley comes into the squad on the bench, but once again there is no Marcus McGuane, which is a little bit surprising. You probably already know, but I'll just say it here. One player that has left the club is deadline day signing Jay Matete. He has not got over his injury problems, and he has returned to Sunderland, which is a real shame for all concerned, because he was a promising player and I really hoped for more. Let's have a look at Shrewsbury Town, and just like Oxford United, Paul Hurst Shrews make only one change from the side that had a 1-0 win last time out over Carlisle. It's Jack Hinsey who comes in to replace Tom Bayliss. Shrewsbury start the day in 17th place, but they are 9 points above the drop zone. But scoring goals has been the massive problem for Shrewsbury all season. They've scored the fewest in League One, only 29, but they do have Daniel Udo up front, and he has got 7 of them. Ex-Oxford United hero Shay Dunkley skippers the Shrewsbury side, and he's probably been Shrewsbury's best player this season. But there is a big miss for SALOP, and that is Jordan Shipley, who is still suspended from getting a red card a couple of games ago. So let's move on to this game, and the start of this game was quite even, although Shrewsbury did spurn a really good chance after 1 minute, which was put wide. But we needed 15 minutes on the clock before Oxford had their first real chance, and it was a big chance for Mark Harris. Oxford turned over the ball in midfield, and it meant Rodriguez could drive at the heart of this Shrewsbury defence. He played it through to Mark Harris, who was through on goal on the right-hand side. It was a very good effort for Mark Harris. Morosi did come out and make a good save with his feet, but Harris really should be scoring. And in the early part of this game, Oxford were getting some joy with the ball over the top with Shrewsbury's high line, but it was a tactic that they went to the well with too often, and too often the ball over the top was quite poor. It was a good one on this occasion, and Owen Dale was able to get in behind, but it was a weak effort from Dale, and we saw that time and time again from Dale, where his industry and his effort was first class, but his quality was lacking today. But Shrewsbury did create chances, and they created a lot of chances by overloading the midfield, but they did play on mistakes that Oxford United made. Oxford giving the ball away from a free kick in a really dangerous position, and nearly caused a counter-attack, and Oxford just about smuggled the danger away. And then Josh Murphy was dispossessed in the Oxford half, and it came to Winchester. He hit a good long-range effort, which Jamie Cummings had to parry behind. I can't say it was a great game, but it did open up a little bit and there were excellent chances for either side. The first one on 25 minutes fell to Shrewsbury, and it was again Udo who got in behind with a good through ball, and he did really well and he squared the ball to O'Brien. O'Brien, arriving on about the penalty spot, scuffed his effort badly and put it wide. And just 2 minutes later, it was Oxford's opportunity to spurn a good chance. It was Dale again who's in behind on the left-hand side. He put a low cross into Rodriguez, and it was almost very similar. Rodriguez scuffing the effort, but it was on target and Dunkley had to put it over the bar for a corner. Murphy had been quite quiet in the game, but we did turn on the afterburners on 35 minutes and drove past two Shrewsbury players into the penalty area. It was a fantastic cross with pace, and it just evaded Billy Bodin at the back post. But Shrewsbury had chances towards the end of the first half. 43 minutes on the clock. It was another promising Shrews attack. Winchester curled the effort harmlessly over the bar on this occasion, but it did lead to pressure at the end of the half and a flurry of corners from Shrewsbury Town. Dunkley getting on the end of a couple of them, really should have done better, making a mess of two good, first one not really a free header, second one definitely was, and he made a bit of a mess of it. So we got through to half-time at 0-0, and it was a bit of an odd game. It was very nervy, and you felt nervy because it's at that time of the season now where every game is going to feel nervous, and you knew Oxford really needed to win this game. But Shrewsbury will probably be the happier of the two sides. They were winning the battle in midfield, and they were kind of overloading Oxford, who only had Brannigan back in that holding role. They were kind of getting a lot of joy and a lot of space in there, with Rodriguez and Bodin not really helping out, and they were causing opportunities on the counter-attack. Oxford, their best chances came really on the break as well, and came when they were able to turn the ball over and transition quickly from Shrewsbury mistakes. So very poor from Oxford when they were in play. In open play, their possession was very predictable, a lot of the times just trying to hit long balls, which were pretty aimless and pretty poor, and Rodriguez and Bodin not really very effective in the first half, and Harris struggled to get into the game. So for all the kind of hype and looking forward to the game, this was quite a disappointing first half for Oxford United, and probably more competitive than we hoped it would be, but it was still 0-0 at the break. Shrewsbury actually started the second half on the front foot, and like how they ended the first half, they ended with a barrage of corners and a barrage of pressure, which Oxford just about got clear. And then out of absolutely nothing on 52 minutes, it became 1-0 to Oxford United. And Oxford actually got some joy from the ball over the top tactic. Elliot Moore hit the ball forward, but this time it was kind of, I don't know if it held up in the wind or it had a bit more height on it, but it gave Murphy a chance to get in behind. Some indecision in that Shrewsbury backline. Morosi in goal did actually well to force Murphy wide, but Murphy kept that chance alive and he got it back to Harris. Harris was able to flick it forward to Bodin, and Bodin from close range smashed it in off the underside of the bar. And Bodin hadn't been very effective in the game, but he'd given Oxford United the lead, and out of nowhere we're 1-0 up. And for the next 10-15 minutes, Oxford had a little bit more energy and a little bit more pep in their step, as you might expect, and looked more dangerous and looked like we might be able to put this game to bed. But once again, the final ball or the final pass just was not there, and chance after chance seemed to, or good opportunity seemed to go astray time after time. And Shrewsbury were never done in the game, and mostly because Oxford kept giving them chances. A poor ball out from the back from Kieran Brown. It created havoc, and Shrewsbury were able to drive forward. It was then Shrewsbury got into the penalty area. There was a good claim for a penalty on Udo. I think Kieran Brown making a bit of a clumsy challenge, but the referee waved it away, and Oxford still couldn't clear the danger, and Winchester was able to get a shot on goal. It hit the post, and Oxford just about scrambled it clear. It was another chance though for Shay Dunkley, unmarked at the back post from the corner, and once again he's made a mess of it, heading it into the ground and harmlessly wide. So changes came into the game, and the first changes for Oxford United saw McEachran and Marcus Brown come on, and it did calm the game down a little bit. There was a rare shot on goal from Josh McEachran, and it wasn't really a highlight in the game. It was just more of a shock to see him that far forward. But Shrewsbury made changes themselves, and that certainly did liven them up, and they were starting to create and cause problems for Oxford United. Benning down the left-hand side started to get into space and started to cause a bit of havoc and got a little bit of joy down Oxford's right, Shrewsbury's left. But it did leave the door open for Oxford United on the break, and they nearly got that second on the break. Brown played in in Murphy, but his effort was deflected wide for a corner. He took the shot. Maybe he could have drove forward a little bit more and got clearer, but but it was another chance that went begging. And you feared it, and you kind of felt it was going to happen. And on 82 minutes, the equaliser came. It was a long ball forward from the goalkeeper, and Oxford had chances to clear this ball. From the keeper's kick, Oxford could have just headed it out for a throw-in, but they headed it back into play. Shrewsbury were able to get the ball forward, but balls came into the area. Moore could have cleared it. Brown does clear the second ball, but it just loops out to the edge of the box, and there is Price on the edge of the box for Shrewsbury to hit a volley into the bottom corner from the edge of the box, but it's gone in. But should Jamie Cumming have saved it? I think he should have done. And like what we saw against Cheltenham Town, all of a sudden Oxford United played with a bit of urgency and a little bit of purpose, and you're thinking, where was this urgency and purpose for the rest of the game? Billy Bodin is played in behind literally just 2 minutes after the equaliser, and it was a good save by Morosi. Again, Bodin really should have scored like Harris should have scored in the first half. Brannigan with a follow-up effort. I think Murphy had a follow-up effort, which were both cleared off the line. Shrewsbury nearly, once again, like in the first half, Oxford give away a possession from a free kick, and it causes a break, and Shrewsbury nearly get in for a second goal. Really poor ball given away, I think this time by Joe Bennett, and Udo looks to be in behind, and Brannigan does manage to get back and close the door on that danger. But Oxford pushed with the 6 minutes of injury time right the way into that 6th minute to try and get that winner. They had chances. It seemed like the ball just wasn't going to drop for us as we drove forward. Shrewsbury with a combination of good defending and Oxford with some wayward passing. But there was Marcus Brown did look quite impressive when he came on, getting the ball and driving forward, and he won a free kick on the edge of the box. Probably it was going to be the last chance Oxford had. You'd thinking it was going to be Brannigan, but it was Joe Bennett. And it looked like Joe Bennett had put it into the top corner, but it just went wide of the post, and Oxford have to settle for a 1-1 draw. And that brings me on to my final thoughts, and let's start with the home side, and that is Shrewsbury Town. And what a good point that is for Shrewsbury Town. You might even be thinking that you should have gone on and win this game today. You certainly had chances. I think that Paul Hurst got his tactics spot on today. I think that he had that dynamic in midfield, which kind of outnumbered Oxford in the first half and certainly caused Oxford United problems. And I think the substitutions that he made in the second half caused Oxford problems as well and pushed them back. And they just kept going. They just kept well organised at the back as well, kept Oxford at bay, and just hoped that they would take one of those chances, and eventually they did. I thought Udo up front looked really good. I wish he was the sort of player Oxford United had, because I thought his hold-up play and his ability to create chances out of nothing was excellent today. But overall, I expected Shrewsbury to be solid and hard-working, and they were. You could see that how they are bereft in front of goal, and a side with a bit more potency up front may well have gone on to win this game. But well organised. I would say you shouldn't have any fears of going down from what I saw today, and you'll be able to grind out enough wins and enough points to comfortably stay up and then build towards next season. And that brings me on to Oxford United, and it's going to feel like an end of the season moment again, isn't it, really? This is a very disappointing, I'm going to say, performance and result. I don't think Oxford played well today. I thought we did okay against a side that we should be doing okay against, quite frankly. And I feel that we let them have far too much of the game. I think for a side that usually has such poor possession stats, I thought we let Shrewsbury have far too much ball, and we didn't seem to really know how to open them up from open play. So fingers are going to be pointed back at the manager and pointed back at the fact that we've had 2 weeks to prepare for this game. We've had that time off. We've had that kind of hopefully refresh and reset, and we come in and we put in a very what we've seen quite a few times under Des Buckingham, a quite predictable, a quite turgid performance. It's very worrying to think that if you stop Oxford United getting the ball out to the wing and stop the wingers having an effect on the game, it really limits Oxford United's play, and unless we can nick the ball in transition and counter-attack, it's very unlikely that we're going to open sides up from playing through them. And by having two attacking midfielders in there, like Bodin and like Rodriguez, but it still didn't really create chances for Oxford, and Oxford weren't able to give them the ball in space and if open play. And I wonder if we need to make another tactical tweak now and maybe start with Brannigan in the middle higher up with McEachran as that holding player, because what we're doing now just doesn't seem to be working and hasn't really worked for a while. Josh Murphy and Owen Dale were good again today, but I don't think Josh Murphy wasn't quite that good. Owen Dale, his end product let him down, but he's been excellent so far since coming into the side, so you forgive him for having a bit of an off day. But again, Oxford can obviously look back to the fact that they did create chances and didn't take them, and that's the most frustrating thing. We always look susceptible to conceding a goal, and we played two sides recently, in Port Vale and in Shrewsbury, who have been two of the poorer sides in front of goal in the league. And we haven't looked that amazing at the back. We looked very controlled against Port Vale, but they still got a bit of head of steam and could have scored goals in that game. And Oxford today, I thought Shrewsbury definitely looked like they were going to get a goal. The goal itself is so symptomatic of goals we've conceded against the likes of Northampton, against Leyton Orient, against Portsmouth, where we just gift the opportunity to the opposition by not playing the percentage play, by not heading the ball out of play from the first kick up from the goalkeeper, by not heading the ball out of play when the ball comes into the box, by heading the ball centrally rather than out wide or out behind for a corner. Just invites pressure, and it's another shot from the edge of the box, and quite frankly it might have been a greasy surface, it might have been a shot that's come through a crowd, but Jamie Cummings got to be saving that. He's got to be saving that. He's feast or famine, isn't he? He seems to make remarkable saves, and then he seems to make blunders, and it is costing us points. I don't think you're going to get much better with Simon Eastwood, but they even mentioned it on commentary that Eastwood might come back in, which is just symptomatic of a side that really doesn't look like it's going to get into the playoffs. And I know Oxford are going to get a lot of negative comments, and quite frankly they deserve it. This is a game we should have turned up to and won quite comfortably and put in a solid performance to give everyone another morale boosting win. But now we're left with more questions than answers. It's more points that we've thrown away from a winning position, which is something we've done countless times under Des Buckingham. And what we all feared, that Lincoln's form is continuing. Yes, they got a late goal today, but they found that late goal and they've jumped above us in the table, and it is, you're probably looking, I mean, from what I think now and how well they performed and their fixtures, you'd be very surprised if Oxford were able to get back ahead of them. But that might be the case. Things might change. Lincoln, it's been a season where people have got into that sixth position and then never been able to hold it. And it's Lincoln's first opportunity to be in there. Let's see if they can hold on to it now. Whether Lincoln, Oxford, Stevenage, Blackpool just keep merry-going around and passing that opportunity back to each other. And who knows, maybe it might, when the music stops, it might end up with Oxford in that sixth place. But again, we don't look, even if we do stumble and fall into the playoffs, we don't look like a side that's going to pull up any trees and create any shocks in the playoffs. And once again, it just feels like the season is going to peter out. I don't think that Fleetwood is going to be an easy game on Monday. I think they're going to be very similar to what we saw against Shrewsbury, and I think they've got more about them than this Shrewsbury side. They've had a bit of a body blow today with a defeat to Cheltenham, so they will be desperate to come to the Kassam Stadium and get something. So expect another frustrating game where a side sits deep and Oxford can't break them down. But hopefully that isn't the case and Oxford can get back to winning ways. I did actually put in my predictions, which already looked to be pretty useless, that Oxford would only pick up 4 points from this bank holiday weekend. So we've got one. We need to get that 3 points on Monday. So everybody, enjoy your Easter break. Shrewsbury fans, Oxford fans, leave your comments down below. I'm already going to be very nervous about seeing the Oxford United comments. I'm already knowing that what comments are going to come from the usual candidates. No doubt I'm going to get comments about how we should have employed John Eustace, even though we don't know if that was even on the table. But yeah, it just, I mean, the whole season, and since Des Buckingham's taken over, it really does feel like we've just let a really great opportunity slip through our fingers. And you can't get away from the fact, and I've said this before, that we are sliding more towards mediocrity than we are turning a corner and seeing what the future might be as Buckingham as coach. But I'm sure there'll be lots of comments calling for his head after this draw, and we will see. We'll move on to Monday and hopefully Oxford United can get back to winning ways. Enjoy your Easter weekend, folks. I know I will. See you Monday.